Yeah, a lot of people seem to be going on about fibre recently and how important it is, how critical it is. But of course, there's too many studies now that are showing that it isn't, and quite the reverse, saying that some things can be really improved. As you can see, there's been a few studies, one released this week, but the highlights of the studies have been things like reduced colitis symptoms, induced clinical remission of Crohn's, inhibits intestinal inflammation, basically reduced rheumatoid arthritis symptoms. One of the things is they're seeing that fibre is feeding specific microorganisms in the mucosal layer, that they're critical for the development of diseases, these microorganisms. So just a little bit of telling you basically what we're talking about here. The lumen is the middle part and the mucosal layer is around there. This is one of the diagrams taken from one of the studies. But basically what they're finding is that fibre is making the microorganisms that absolutely trigger inflammation, they're able to proliferate. And that's taken from Cell Host and Microbe. That's the study there. And it was just basically saying that that fibre was developing this microorganism, this pathobiont, as they call it. And it says there, the researchers reported the appropriate localization of a specific pathobiont in the mucosal layer is critical for disease development, which is disrupted by fibre exclusion. So that was the first study there. So those that are saying, and by the way, that isn't old news. That was a 2023 in November. So that's really a recent study. This study there, a high fibre diet synergizes with, although they call it pre-copri, by the way, and exacerbates rheumatoid arthritis. And basically what they were saying that they were studying it and also comparing it to a diet with no plant foods and plant food diets, of doing all that sort of thing. And they saw that removing the fibre from the diet was improving health conditions related to autoimmune diseases. It definitely reduced the symptoms of autoimmune diseases like Crohn's and rheumatoid arthritis. They actually said a high fibre diet exacerbated arthritis via microbial alterations and intestinal inflammation. So I think that's an interesting thing as well. But the reason I'm showing you the study is because many people don't like anecdotes. Real people having resolutions, showing that their gut is improving, having less inflammation, less Crohn's, less gas, less wind, because they've removed fibre. I mean, basically, this is what a carnivore diet does. A keto diet removes quite a lot of fibre, so does low carb. And one of the things I was going to ask you viewers out there is I'm now going to make these notes as PDFs. And I was wondering if anyone knows how I can put them up online somewhere so you could just download them anytime you wanted. I'm just flicking through so you can see that there are lots of keynotes, lots of studies, and you could give these to friends if you wanted to, giving you a lot of stick about, you should be eating plant-based stuff. Lots of little bullet points. The other thing is that the fibre-based processed foods, they benefit shareholders at the cost of long-term health, basically. So Yum Brands, PepsiCo, McDonald's, the blue is showing you the profit in the last reported year of 2022, and this is 2012, and you can see that they're all much more profitable. Nestle, Unilever, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, much more profitable since they've been really pushing the plant-based foods. So lots of things for you to have a read of. I'm just showing you how much information there is. Also, when you talk about short-chain fatty acids, a lot of people say that you need butyrate from dietary fibre in your colon because that will then go into the TCA cycle, basically. But you can also get short-chain fatty acids from circulating ketones from the liver or from protein by isobutyrate. And what is great about the blood side providing this is you save your body doing two of the processes. So beta-hydroxybutyrate goes straight in here, and acetoacetate goes in here just before it gets into the mitochondria. So the dietary fibre gives you all the disadvantages of gas and bloating and all of that sort of stuff. And ketones, of course, don't give you any of those problems. So if you want to get into that, and like I say, all of these PDFs will have links to studies, and it's just basically, it starts off nice and easy to read and in layman's terms, and then it gets into much more detail. So if you're interested in that, there you go. that. So let's remove that from the screen. So this is a PDF where you can see the study, and it was just an interesting one. We're not looking at big statistics, we're looking at mechanisms. So they took 7 young, healthy, normal weight males and females, and the researchers, what they did is they kept them on a weight maintenance diet containing at least 250 grams of carbs per day during the study period. And on study days, the subjects fasted for 12 hours and then were given one of the following: 438 grams of potatoes, so almost a pound, 438 grams of potatoes plus 37.5 grams of fat, which 45 grams of butter. So basically, butter isn't 100% fat, so there we go. 121 grams of lentils, 121 grams of lentils plus fat. So not all at the same time, but different things. So they wanted to see what was going to happen. So the potato obviously was a rapidly absorbable carbohydrate, while the lentils were a slowly absorbable carbohydrate. And what they measured was glucose, they measured insulin, and glucose-dependent insulinotropic peptide, or GIP, I say. So the discoveries that were made in this study, and they've been replicated, and there are more modern studies, will be very interesting for people that are wearing a continual glucose monitor. And both the lentils and the potatoes consumed with butter provoked a much lower glucose response than the potato and lentils alone. In other words, consuming fat along with the highly and not so highly absorbable carbs diminished the glucose response. So I have tried to make this a bit more simple, but basically this is the glucose response. And if you had potatoes, just potatoes, this was the elicited response. This is potatoes and fat, as you can see. And lentils up here, and the bottom one is lentils and fat. So what's the point there? Well, the point is if you're looking at a continual glucose monitor and you have carbohydrates on their own, by the way, none of this is advice yet. This is just talking about it, because I want you to see the whole thing. If you have a continual glucose monitor, you're going to see your glucose go up more with potatoes than with potatoes and fat. Not saying that you should mix them. Right, so let's go to the next thing, which is, so yeah, there's your potatoes and fat, there's your lentils, and right at the bottom, lentils with fat. So that looks pretty interesting. But let's have a look at the insulin response. And this is where people get a little bit confused, because the blood glucose or continual glucose monitor is doing great work, but it's not showing you the whole story. And this is what I'm always talking about behind the scenes. How much insulin are you producing to get this response? So if you look at the insulin response, these blood sugar elevations that were elevated, you see that the lentils with fat drove the insulin levels higher, while the potato without fat did the same thing. In the paper, the authors say that differences are not significant. But so there we go. So this is the insulin response just to potatoes, quite high. Can you see that? And the potatoes with fat. And it's sort of similar to the blood glucose response, isn't it, really? The potatoes were the highest, potatoes with fat were second highest on the blood glucose. So anyway, let's go into the next thing. That's the original charts. But let's go into the GIP. Okay, so this is the next thing. So the addition of fat to the carbohydrates, although it reduces the blood glucose on the continual glucose monitor, it absolutely drives GIP way up. GIP is short for glucose-dependent insulinotropic peptide. So this is a hormone that's released by the K cells. It's actually in the small intestine on the brush border. That's not on the PDF, but anyway. Upon its release, the GPI sort of functions to signal to the pancreas to release insulin and glucagon, which is important, in anticipation of sugar absorption into the bloodstream. So basically, the augmented release of insulin is termed the incretin effect. So this is what happens. When you consume glucose and it goes into your body and it gets into the small intestine, it will signal to the pancreas, basically, to release insulin. So this is important. I'll tell you why the incretin effect is important. Because it shows how important it is that your small intestine is involved. So the discovery of the incretin effect dates back to the 60s. And there was another test that they did. So they administered some glucose solution orally and we looked at their blood sugar rise. I said, so this is the next study. So what they did is they basically gave people some glucose, maybe like this, and measured, once it's in your body, what does it do to your blood glucose? And then what they did was they stopped the people taking the glucose that way and intravenously put it into their veins, directly into their veins. So what they were showing was it's not blood glucose that is putting the insulin up, but actually the ingestion of glucose. So yeah, on the website here, you've got things at the top there, podcasts, food and drink, all information about that, meal plans. You can book the coaching sessions. I'm doing a deal at the moment where you get 5 sessions for the price of 4, which is really good. And then this drop-down menu, more success stories, details about the 24-hour live stream we did, reviews, online personal training, more Ask the Experts. And then you've got articles here. So this is something that people don't seem to realize is available. We can even get this on the mobile. So blood work and cardio, conflicting information, lots of different things that we talked about. I tend to put it on there. So let's get into there's the blood work one there. Somebody mentioned blood work. So here's a little bit of stuff here. It's just about what's the best test to get. It's not the full details, but it just tells you what would be good for different things. So nice and simple. Some of the things are really simple. And if you've got time to have a look at the website and give me some feedback, that'd be really good. I'm thinking of putting more videos on there actually, rather than just be text-based. But what happens, you go to the homepage, you want to see what experts say, you just click on that. Real life success stories, just click that. That's if you're starting out on Carnivore, there's the 19 tips for you to start. Some of the reviews when I was at Rivero, some reviews from people I coached, and how much to eat, when, what, and how much. Right around shopping list, that's interactive. You click on that and then you can write a shopping list from a selection of things. Making a commitment. One of the things about this way of eating is committing to it. And I'm a great believer, if you write something down, you're going to possibly focus your mind a little bit more. So you click on that, make a commitment, and what happens is it generates a commitment which you get emailed. Obviously the coaching there, which does fast track a lot of progress for people. Testimonials, little quiz, if you want a little quiz. More community stuff. I do run a little locals setup as well. Exercise workouts, and then we've got science and some things that people find very useful, like the fruit and veg thing, the truth about that. It's actually taken from PDFs and details from the growers themselves. So it's not conspiracy theories or tinfoil hat stuff. You can actually look at what they say and print it as public documents. And this is where I get the fact that pears can be over 8 months old legally. Apples can be over a year old. When I say year, old, from being picked to being on your shelf. And of course, you've got this substance now, APEEL, appeal, which is sprayed onto all fruit. It can't be removed, and that was funded by a Mr. Bill Gates. So there you go. Think about fasting here. Oh, actually, I could go back to that blood glucose thing, because fasting, it shows that some of the studies showed some brilliant results of what happens when you fast. Things about electrolytes, there's a bit more about blood glucose and insulin. So there's loads of stuff there. And there's even a feedback form that you can put on. So let's stop that share a second. Right, let's have a look at this. Oh, Carnivore Muscles there. Hello. Right, that's very kind to see you, sir. Unrefined trends. Can you explain glucose-insulin response to proteins, please? My BG stays high when I eat protein, and I feel awful. Should I aim for ketogenic ratios? Yes. Well, I don't know how long you've been doing this and how long you've been wearing your continual glucose monitor, or how long you've been doing the finger pricking. But and how much protein you're eating and when you're doing it. So there's lots of things there, but basically when you eat food, your body will increase its blood glucose concentration. Normally with protein, you get a response because your body is firstly going hypoglycemic and your body picks this up because it's used to carbohydrates and it releases glucagon to increase your blood glucose in your bloodstream, because it doesn't want you to go hypo, it doesn't want you to go too low, because fats and proteins, they don't elicit quite a high blood glucose response. And also they take a little while to digest, unlike carbohydrates, especially refined carbohydrates, which are quick acting and put your blood glucose up. So what happens when you eat carbohydrates, and I'm trying to make this as layman's as possible, the body is expecting a quick release of sugar. The biphasic response, or just means two responses from the pancreas, are pretty quick. The first one's out. Once you start to smell, taste, think about you're going to have something sweet. And then once you start eating, as I say, the body gets into the small intestine and the incretin hormones get to the pancreas and say, right, we need X amount of insulin. Oh, by the way, there's too much blood glucose, we need a lot of insulin. And then they bring it down, which is why you get the sugar high and then you get the sugar crash. When you eat protein, that's not happening. So what happens is the glucagon comes out and it just makes sure that your blood glucose goes up a bit. That's that. Fractal beans. My boyfriend hid my keto mojo sticks and I suspect will hide the CGM, sorry. I'm beginning to suspect I love data more than him. Oh, dearie me, really? Oh, dearie me. Yes. When I started running in my 40s, someone warned me that I would be obsessed with the data. And I was doing mile sprints and I was doing 5K, 10Ks and 10 miles and half marathons. And boy, I got absolutely obsessed. And I have so many diabetic patients who get obsessed with the data, absolutely obsessed with the data. It's easy to do, especially when it's going really well and you just can't believe how you're managing your blood glucose so well. Matthew, yeah, I'll see you tomorrow on the Mighty Networks, 5 p.m. live, question and answers, which is free. Don't forget to check out our Mighty Networks. Link was earlier in the thing. Thank you, One Sweet Man, saying it's a great show. It feels very rushed. Carnivore Muscle, thank you. Tremendous. Unrefined. Friends, thank you. That's fine. Seriously, it is important to have measurable results. Yeah, I agree. This morning when I was sprinting, it's important to me to see that I'm making progress. So absolutely, I have no problem with people looking at data. I think it's when you're not looking at your performance or your clinical presentation, that's when I get a problem with it. Right. So always a pleasure, apparently, according to Selena. Fractal Beans. Selena. Oh, right. This is great. So, yes, thank you very much. That's 60 minutes. I hope you like the shirt. I normally wear my T-shirts, and I did it because I thought Rich was going to wear his shirt today. So, anyway, let's see you maybe on the Mighty Network.